Good morning, ladies. Very excited to be here. And I have to say, I'm an alumni of TCI. I was in one of the early forums for nearly 4 years. And we really champion the idea of nonprofit leadership having their own forum. Although we enjoy working with women in the business sector, we had some unique nuances that were true to the nonprofit sector that we wanted to bring forth and give thanks to them listening, and that's now been running for several years. So our intention today is to talk about heart intelligence. So very different intentions from goals. Goals are things that we set that we hope we hit. Intentions are things that come from our heart that we know we must accomplish. And so I stopped setting goals a long time ago and shifted to setting intentions. And that's what I invite you to learn to do. So our intentions today is to share some learning techniques using heart intelligence principles that overcome life trauma and setbacks, that recognize how to avoid or mitigate chronic stress, that develop tools for a more harmonious life, and to choose self-care and self-love at all times. So I wanted to start with just the idea of peace, because all of you have been inundated with the power of meditation. Is there anybody here who's not heard the term meditate? You need to meditate. Let's meditate. There is truly power in meditation. And there are a variety of different ways that you can do that. My good friend Stephanie is here, and she told me a few years ago, I can't meditate. And my brain's too busy going, I can't meditate. And now she's meditating and finding calm through it. So the key here is to find that stillness technique that works for you, right? And to learn how to maximize its benefits. So heart intelligence, like our heart, has 4 chambers. And I'll briefly run through those 4 chambers for you, but I encourage you as leaders, as women leaders, to do more study about this work and how you show up every day in your personal and professional lives, so that you can gain power from that wisdom of how you show up and become your spectacular selves. So the 4 chambers of heart intelligence looks at our emotional intelligence, our physical intelligence, our mental intelligence, and our spiritual intelligence. And so emotional intelligence is all over the conversation now. Where you are really seeing it is in the professional workplace, and especially in the corporate world. Corporate leaders are now recognizing that when they make hiring decisions using their emotional intelligence, they make better hires. Because you are now choosing people who match the values and the purpose for what it is you're attempting to do in your companies and organizations. So the higher your emotional intelligence, the more powerful you are as leaders. And emotional intelligence is known by 5 primary categories. The first is self-awareness. The second is self-regulation. And there's a lot of statistics now that talks about the most successful leaders on the planet are those that have mastered self-control. Let me see a show of hands of how many of you have some self-control, right? And how many of us, let's see, in honesty, are struggling with that particular area? So self-control is the key that makes that shift for you in how you deliver and show up every day. The third one talks about social skills. Empathy is the next, and then motivation. But self-awareness is the key. So I ask you now, when you get angry, where do you feel it? Where do you feel it? I'm not asking you why you're angry, but where is the sensation in your body when you feel that anger coming? Anybody tell me? In your gut, where's yours?
Mine is in my throat.
In your throat. Where? Anybody else?
Mine is like from here up.
From the chest up. Where's
Mine
yours?
is in here.
In your head. For me, it's my ears. My ears turn the color of her dress. They get deep red. Have you seen those cartoons where the steam is coming out? That's me. And when my ears start to warm up, I have to do a self-check, because there's something happening right now. And what tends to follow that is a snap. But since I've been practicing emotional intelligence, I don't snap anymore. It's the most amazing. And I'm a Scorpio, and we got a history of snapping, right? But learning that about myself has put me in such a place of awareness that soon as that begins to happen, I pause and I check into what I'm feeling, because there's something that is happening that's causing that. So the very first thing you have got to master for your first chamber to be strong is emotional intelligence, because it is first about self. But when you have mastered this, empathy becomes the other really strong characteristic in emotional intelligence. And when you know yourself and you know how to regulate, self-correct, self-check, then you learn how to feel what's happening with others. And as women in leadership, we tend to miss that, right? Because sometimes we feel like we got to be strong, we got to be better than the man, and we can't let emotion get in the way, because they're already going to call us names about being a power somebody else in this work instead of just being powerful and brilliant. We get all these other labels as powerful women, right? And so that sense of empathy about others is a power. It's not a weakness. Learning how to feel what's happening to other people is a power, because then you can behave and react in a certain kind of way. So emotional intelligence is the first one. I want to share that all of us don't have it, but it can be learned, right? There are benefits to having a strong intelligence. And when you learn to identify your emotions, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. Because now you are not reacting, right? You are responding. And responding gives you more self-control than a reaction. Okay? And so learning that about yourself is your power play. And that is what embracing heart intelligence is owning your power and your purpose. The second one is physical intelligence. And what you ask in physical intelligence is about what I do. How do you show up, right? And here we want to explore what it means to be a physical being having a spiritual experience, right? Because if you start at an awareness that we are first spiritual beings in a human experience, then you can operate from a different perspective, because it's not your physical self that's always taking control. It is your heart space, which is your spiritual self, that are making the decisions that your physicalness acts on. That's why it's so important to understand the difference between feelings and emotions. Because you have to know what you're feeling. Because something will trigger that feeling. Everything can trigger the feeling. But how you react to it is an emotional behavior. And that could change moment by moment, person by person. So awareness is the first characteristic that we must be in charge of to own our heart's intelligence. You also have to be very cognizant of how you identify self-love in your daily behavior. How many of you really struggle with loving yourselves? Most women do. We have that as a heart. And how do you even define it? I work with a lot of young women, and for them it's getting their nails done. What? That's part of it. But it's also about knowing what your fiscal capacity is. That's self-love. It's about knowing how to manage your finances. It's about being clear where those finances are coming from, right? So there are many levels of self-love, and I've listed a couple as we move through it. So our third heart chamber, our mental intelligence, is recognizing, how many of you have heard this? Our thoughts create our reality. How many of you believe that? Okay. So your thoughts set your intentions, which manifest your actions. If if you believe that, how many of you are living in your truth in this moment, right now? How you make your decisions, how you guide yourself, how you manage your teams, how you speak up. Because for those of you who struggle here, it speaks to your challenge with communications. When you feel pain here, when it's hard for you, when your anger is in the throat, it speaks to your challenge with expressing your truth. Not an inability to communicate, but how to speak in your truth. And as women, we're so often taught not to do that, right? To protect everybody else's feelings. But true power comes in knowing your truth, understanding your truth, and being clear how to speak it and use it. So one of the ways that our heart's intelligence helps us do that is through affirmations. How many of you use them, have one, right? So think about what are those, that's why I gave you the cards. The card is just another way of helping you identify that which spirit is trying to speak to you through, right? And then the fourth chamber is spiritual intelligence, and this is rooted in what you believe. It's not about religion. Everybody has the right to their choice of religion. But how many of you believe that there is a power that's greater than all of us? That is what this is spiritual intelligence is. How do you connect to that source which is greater than all of us? And understand that we are directed by that source energy. In the meditation we did this morning, she kept saying, it's a beautiful day. Today is a great day. Despite all the challenges that I'm going to meet, it's a good day. My AM mantra is all is well always. I get that in my being. Even when I'm about to have a very difficult conversation, I walk into that conversation with an awareness that says, all is well always. It doesn't always come out the way I want it, but how it comes out is good because that is the way it should be, right? And I sometimes have to sit in that, right? I really do. I have to sit in it, but I am confident and comfortable in my grounding, in my recognition that if I operate from my heart's intelligence all the time, that all will be well always. And that's taken me 10 years to get to. It hasn't been a really quick journey, but it has so transformed how I show up, how I engage, how I love, how I teach, because it's never coming from a place of malice, ever. Sometimes it's coming from a place of selfishness, but self-love is, let me say it this way, it is okay to be selfish. We are often taught, oh no, we got to put everything and everybody first. How many have children? They always get first. No! It goes back to the concept of the airplane. When you put your mask on first before you can save anybody else. My daughter's 30 years old. She's an executive at LinkedIn. And she said to me a short while ago something that really touched my heart. She said, Mommy, I have to tell you, I have always felt like I was the center of your world. But it has never, ever stopped you from doing everything you've always wanted to do, even if you brought me along. And she's absolutely right in that. I've always lived the life that I wanted and incorporated her in that. And as a result, she felt valued. She didn't feel like she was missing out on anything. And the little diva is thriving. I give her my props, right? So understanding that connection to our spiritual selves is what guides and drives our heart's intelligence. It's not how brilliant we are, but our spiritual selves will remind us how brilliant we are, right? It's not how overweight we are. I'm so loving this body right now. I'm fine with her. She's got all of this stuff going on, but I'm just thriving in her right now, right? And yes, it's in that love of her, it's allowed me to eat better, right? I am never on a diet, but I am consciously aware of what I'm eating because I'm feeding my spiritual self through my physical self. Does that make sense? So being rooted And that thing that guides you, your guidance system, should be your heart, right? When people say listen to your heart, a lot of people say, I don't hear anything, right? But it's the stillness within that allows the messages to come forth, right? So that is really the point of our conversation today, and how to learn to raise your vibrational energy. How many of you know that we are energy and that we all vibrate at different levels, right? And how many of you realize that you have the power to raise your vibrational energy? All the hands should be up. You control it. You decide if you're going to be pissed off today. You absolutely get to make that decision. And some of you walk in the morning just mad. Right? And your staff instantly feel it. It's like, okay, I'm going to wait until later. Maybe after she has some coffee, we can have a conversation. Right? So if you check into your emotional intelligence, your awareness of where you are vibrationally will register immediately when you walk into a room. And in that awareness, you will shift what's happening. Because you know when people are not trying to talk to you. They don't, and you know, sometimes, and I work with young women, 18 to 24, and they have taught me the term to get in your feelings. Have y'all heard it? How many of you have heard that? You know, you just need to get out your feelings. Like, what? And that's when, you know, you recognize that there's something you've given off that you're not intending to give off, or you may not even be aware that that's what you've given off. But if you are self-checking on a moment-by-moment basis, you are aware of what you're giving off. And if you want to be mad, then stand in it. It's about standing in your truth. Don't walk in mad and then say, no, I ain't mad. What? All of us can feel that. Right? So pay attention, and it starts with your awareness of your heart's intelligence. Okay. And so here are the tools that activate our heart's intelligence. It's really not that complicated, but it's not that easy. Because we've been taught to judge. Just by virtue of the world we live in, we've been taught to judge others. But an appreciation for self shifts all of that out of the way. Right? I was driving, and I tell this story, leaving my house the other day, and it's 900 degrees in South Florida, and I'm in my air-conditioned vehicle jamming in my music, and I see a woman walking on the sidewalk, and I observe her, and my first lower self says, why she got that on? It's hot outside. You know, she really could have did something with her hair. And I said, Alison, excuse me? Self-talk, self-check. Really? You in the car, in air conditioning, driving, woman minding her business, and you all in her business with your lower self. Right? And immediately, it made me pause. And what I saw when I created that instant self-check was how beautiful her dark skin was. Her skin was beautiful, flawless. And that is when I recognized that I have to continue to work to operate from my heart's intelligence. Because my lower self was already in judgment mode, but my higher self paused me long enough to recognize the beauty of the woman. And if I was going in the same direction, I probably would have stopped and did what we call a rack, a random actor contest. Racks raise your vibrational energy. It can be something as simple as open the door for someone. But part of what I challenge the young women I work with is to do a rack every day. Every day. Right? Buy somebody a cup of coffee. Smile. Stop and say something sweet. Right? Racks. Racks is an example of how you shift your vibrational energy. Everybody can do a rack. I challenge everybody when you leave me today. One rack, and then journal about it. How many of you keep journals? Notes to yourself. So do a rack today and put it somewhere in your phone, on a sticky. Just start putting little ticks for how many racks you do in a week. And watch how you feel after each rack. Watch how you feel when you go to that little sticky and you got 12 racks. OMG. What just happened? Right? And then watch how when you have that feeling, Something amazing now happens to you that you didn't expect. That's because you're creating vibrational energy that's matching where it is you want to be. That's what embracing heart intelligence teaches you to do. To appreciate yourselves, where you are, and what's happening in the moment. To not judge, to forgive, and most importantly, gratitude. How many of you are grateful right now? And tell me something you're immediately grateful for. Daddy, what are you grateful for? Ashe. Right? What are you grateful for?
Waking up this morning.
Amen. Give thanks and praise. It wasn't guaranteed. Right? What are you grateful for?
And Colleen invited me this morning.
See, there's something special for you. What are you grateful for?
So many blessings.
So many blessings, right? What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for being here.
Ashe. So am I. What are you grateful for?
Grateful for having the opportunity to hear you speak
To
this
be
morning.
here this morning. Give thanks. Give thanks. So gratitude is a vibrational shifter. Right? Even when you speak a gratitude, you feel differently. You immediately feel differently. Right? When I find myself in that kind of sad space for whatever reason, and I've learned to pause and self-check and self-correct, and then I can immediately be grateful. I lost my significant other in November suddenly. Right? So I can pause and say, I'm grateful. One, that we had 21 years together. Two, that he was one of the most amazing men who taught me unconditional love. Three, because I'm here now to honor the presence that he was in my life. So in an instant, being grateful shifts your vibrational energy. It is a tool for teaching you how to operate your heart. Right? So if you can every morning on the next to that little sticky that's a rat, have a little sticky that's a gratitude note. And give a gratitude somewhere. How many of you understand that forgiveness is not for the person who hurt you? Forgiveness is for who? For you. Forgiveness is for you. Because if the person hurt you and they don't know it, they gone. They don't even know it. They all right. Anybody suffering right now from that hurt is you. Right? So if you can forgive yourself for feeling hurt, that's self-love. Can you identify with that? Does that make any sense at all? To forgive yourself is self-love. And then to forgive somebody else, that's hard. Just saying. But once you get there, you've added some more power. You've added some more power to your stuff. And once you start building this power in your stuff, you are unstoppable. And your power teaches you to operate from your heart's intelligence. And your heart's intelligence builds your power. Right? And then you will become invincible. It doesn't matter because you learn in that all is well always. So there are 6 basic human needs. All right? This is all we got to do to be happy in life. It's not that hard. We got to have love and compassion for ourselves and for others. We need to understand gratitude and happiness. Right? We need to understand it. How many of you have peace of mind all the time?
Oh, no.
All the time. Even in your adversity. If you could find peace of mind in your moments of difficulty and struggle, you operate in your heart's intelligence. Right? If you can have peace of mind when you did not get the contract that you've been working 6 months on, right? If you can sit in that and recognize that there's peace in not having it, that's operating in your heart's intelligence. Right? How many of you have a vision for your life? Genuinely have a vision for your life? Because most of us just moving. Getting up in the morning, going to the next thing, not really clear on what's going to happen next. But clarity of purpose is a game changer. Clarity of purpose is a game changer. Being so clear about what I wanted to do and when and how has allowed me to live the life I love and love the life I live. I am so blessed that I get to check out at the end of every year and for 2 or 3 months go sit in the mountains and be at peace, right? I don't make a lot of money, but I've discovered how I can use what I have to live the life that I want, right? I've understood that the universe is abundant. There is no shortages. There's no shortages. Shortages doesn't exist except here, right? And so when I learned to live in my heart's intelligence, all the stuff that I was trying to manifest all of a sudden started moving to me. And one of my favorite is Rumi, right? How many of you know the philosopher Rumi? When he simply says, what you seek is seeking you. I was seeking peace on some long terms. I was seeking an opportunity to work 7 months and be out 5 months. Right? That was a very conscious intention set with clarity of purpose. Right? So a sense of control is the second time you've heard that. That circles back to emotional intelligence. Right? So many of us feel often that we're out of control. Completely out of control. I'm just out of control. It's just out of control. But understanding these 6 basic human needs are guideposts to help you get into your heart's intelligence. Right? So there's something that Abraham Hicks does that I really appreciate. It's called the emotional guidance scale. And it has about 21 emotions, and you guys can't really see that. But I urge you to Google it. I work with young women who've aged out of the foster care system. What do we know about that population? A lot of pain. There's a lot of brokenness in that group. And right, even though those of us sitting in this room may have had very loving, structured upbringings, it didn't mean that it was void of struggle or adversity or stress. But when you learn that on that emotional guidance scale, right, where you are, and that comes from what? How do you know where you are? Self-awareness, right? So in the moment, how are you feeling emotionally? After an argument with your significant other, where are you on the scale? Right? Because here's the thing. If you are on the scale angry, okay, you're actually higher on the scale than if you were depressed. And if you can find yourself moving from anger to being like, all right, I'm content. You haven't gotten the joy, but you moved up the scale 1 notch from angry to disappointment. What you recognize in that moment is that's progress. You went from being angry to being disappointed. That's going up the scale. The energy is shifted, right? And then in that moment, if you can find gratitude in something, you can move from disappointment up the scale to contentment. And if you can keep figuring out how in that moment to move up the scale, it don't happen instantly. It takes a moment. It takes a moment to build, but it is through self-awareness that you're aware that you're shifting it. And if you can get to contentment, you're at the halfway point to joy. Right? And that's why the understanding the emotional scale is so important. So we've been talking a lot about vibes and attracting energy, and we give off energy based on where we are. Right? And that was my goal this morning, was to kind of shift the energy, to bring everybody to sort of a place of calm. Especially those that are organizing, because when you're organizing stuff, you're like this. You got to get it right. You got to make sure you have the stuff, and you know you got to get there early, right? But then you need to pause. Pausing is my friend. How many of you know how to pause? Pausing is my friend. Pausing is my friend. Pausing is my friend. Pausing is my friend. Learning how to pause, because what pause does is allow me now to make a different choice. How many of you believe that you always have a choice?
Yes.
Always. People tell me all the time, I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. Now the choice might be to go, but there's always a choice. And when the young women I work with recognize that there's always, Even doing nothing is what?
A choice.
Choice. Right? When you get that and you tie that to your awareness of self, what can get in your way? What stops you? What stops you from being amazing? You're the only person that can stop your amazing. Right? And we are always in our heads. And when you recognize that our thoughts become beliefs, what does that mean when you know that? What does that mean to you? When you know that telling yourself the same thought over and over and over and over and over, you begin to believe that. What does that mean? That you have the ability to what? Change your belief. And you can change your belief by changing your thoughts. Because here's the other thing I learned by getting in my heart's intelligence. That there was a big difference between my truth and the truth. Right? The truth is a universal truth. Gravity is gravity. You jump off that building, gravity gonna impact you. Guaranteed. The sun will rise. Nothing we can do to control that. Right? So understanding the difference between the truth and my truth was a game changer for me, learning to use my heart's intelligence. Because my truth came from what?
Your experience.
My experiences, which were a part of my thoughts, which created my beliefs. All right, so quickly, defining self-love. We've talked about these. Standing in your truth, putting yourself first, providing what your body needs, learning, emotional intelligence, living without judgment, spending quality time with yourself and others, creating a realistic budget, and dreaming big dreams. Let's finish up here. All right, so here are some ways that we can learn how to do this work. I heard Oprah Winfrey say the other day, "Oh my God, my heart, thank you, heart. You have been with me for 61 years. Oh, and you keep beating. How do I not love you? You are my heart." Right? She did a whole emotional moment. Go on, Ken. So doing the work. And we came to Q&A. So, Ken, can you pass those out? Here's an exercise I'd like you to take with you. I would love for you, in the next 2 minutes, to do the top 5. So this is something I love to do. It's called an I love list. So all of you have to write 5 things. Here's the goal, 50. You need 50 things that you love. Right? 50 things that you love. And here's the thing. If they don't make you scream, fall out on the floor, laugh out loud, have an oh my God moment, tears coming, then you don't love it enough. So this is an exercise. You can take it with you. And it's about raising your vibrational energy. Because if you keep this list somewhere near your racks and your gratitudes, it doesn't matter what kind of mood you in, who made you feel what kind of way. When you read your I love list, right now I still just fall out when I read mine. Right? And there's some things on there like I love Prosecco. And if I can just look at it on the list, I get a big smile on my face because I said when I leave this moment, I'm gonna have a Prosecco. Right? And then the final slide is a thank you slide. Ladies, I thank you for allowing me the time this morning. I feel blessed.